Business statistics, interestingly, we have a lot of data. There's no shortage of data, and it seems like more and more every day. So we're going to use a couple of statistics tools to make some sense out of all this data. The first is in the area of descriptive statistics, which, as the name implies, it describes what we're looking at a set of data and telling us what insights we get. The second is regression analysis. And this is where we use the data points and we try to create a formula that can predict the future. Well, not quite, but it certainly would do an estimation based on other parameters. Let's use a sample of how this would work. We're going to have two investment opportunities, investment 1 and investment 2. And the question is, how would you describe the expected rate of return if you chose 1 or 2? And how risky are these? So statistics can definitely help us. So we're going to do that. First is let's graph the two investments side by side or on top of each other to see how they look. And that gives our brain and our eyes a way to visualize what's going on. Then we're going to be more precise by using measures of mean, median, and standard deviation. So let's go to Excel and try this out. Here we see the same data that we saw previously, but I put it in a slightly easier form for graphing. And that form is right here. So if we shade the years and the returns, and we go to Insert here for charts, and let's do a line chart and just accept the default format. And this is what it looks like. All right. So I'm not going to make it fancy with titles and whatnot, but for now we can see that Series 1, which is investment 1, is pretty stable, particularly when you compare it to Series 2. Okay, we already see the difference in volatility. So next, let's do the statistical measures and see if that complements or is in line with what we think. Hint, it is. First is the mean. The mean is simply the arithmetic average of all the data points in each of the two investments. So equals, I'll do it the longhand, average of this whole strip of data for investment 1. So the average is 5.6% per year. And if we do the year 2, we could just copy it since they're right next to each other. And it's 8.85. Next, we're going to determine the median. The median is the midpoint. And here we have an even number, which makes it slightly more tricky. But let's just do the first bit of manipulation and then solve for the median. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort this array. I'm keeping the years just so I don't lose track of which year goes with which item. Data, sort. I'm going to sort based on the rate of return and go from smallest to largest. And what we see is the following. So it arrays from 1% to 10, not a very big range. And then we say, okay, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? So that is the midpoint. However, there's 10 below and 10 above. So if we have an even number, we average the observations of numbers 10 and 11. So it's right here. So we now say 20 data points divided by 2 is exactly 10. And that means we need points 10 and 11 so that there's 9 below and 9 above that range, right? So here, the median equals average of these 2 points. Now here's redundant because they're both 6, but I'm going through it as if they were different. Next, we'll do investment 2. It will be a little more interesting. All right, so we go here, and again, data, sort, and select column E, and then small to largest, and the array is negative 20 up to positive 35. So much more volatility as we saw. Again, we'll count. Actually, we can see here where it's going to be right here, right? Those are the points that will define the median. And here, the formula is equal average. And we'll shade those 2 points. And we get 8.50. So here it's slightly different because there was a spread between those 2 points. Standard deviation, there's a formula in Excel for that, equals STD EV dot. And here If it's the entire population, it's .p. If it's a sample, it's .s. Here, it's a sample, because these aren't all the investment returns back in history. It's a sample, and then open parens, and then simply shade the returns. And we do the same, equals standard deviation dot s, and we shade the area. So now we have these descriptive statistics of mean, median, and standard deviation. Let's go back into the PowerPoint and look at them and make some observations. All right, let's look at these results and make some observations. For investment one, it has a lower mean. In other words, lower average return. So if we say, what might we expect in the future from one? We'd say 5.6%. The volatility is 2.6%, which is not very high. What standard deviation means is that the variation plus or minus that percent is what we'd expect in about 2/3 of the probability of occurrences. So in other words, we know that the average is 5.6. And we say, well, how much higher or lower might it be? And the standard deviation says, well, there's a 68% chance that it's going to be in between plus or minus one standard deviation, which is 5.6% minus 2.6%, or about 3, up to 5.6 plus 2.6, which is 8.2. So it's a pretty nice tight band around 5.6. And then let's look at investment two while we're at it. The mean is higher, 8.85, so that's nice to make more. And then the standard deviation is 14. So if we take 9% as the mean minus 15%, we're now -6. So we might lose money within this one standard deviation. If we add 9% to 15%, we get 24. So even though we could say we expect to earn 9% from investment two, the swings are so large that there is a chance that we're going to lose money because it'll go negative at the left side of the distribution. However, we could also make a lot more money. So the answer is investment one is better for a risk-averse investor because looks like we won't lose money in all probabilities. Whereas for investment two, you'll make more money on an expected basis, but you may lose money or you may make a lot of money. In other words, wider swings, higher volatility. So along with risk comes reward, right? So you get rewarded with high return on average. And if you're willing to take the risk, it might be a good investment. So this is what we call an investment for risk takers. So the first is risk averse. You don't risk, play it safe, earn the 5.6 with small variation. If you're a risk taker, you don't mind taking risk because you want to hit higher numbers, then you'll take investment two.